नित्यम् अनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमेड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामः. Welcome to our Saturday session on guided meditation for beginners. As usual, let us start with our meditation session. Let us all sit up straight, upright, keeping the back, neck and head in a relaxed, upright position. Focus your mind, your attention to various limbs of the body, and as you think of those parts, imagine that each limb is healthy, strong, and full of purity. Focus your mind on your feet, ankles, calves, knees and thighs, back, stomach, chest, shoulders, arms, elbows, hands, the neck, face and the head. Visualize the whole body as steady, strong, healthy, pure. Now direct your attention to your breath. Inhale and exhale in a relaxed, deep, rhythmic manner. As you inhale, visualize that you inhale the light of purity, which fills every cell of your body, every corner of your mind with its effulgence. And as you exhale, exhale out all negativity, stress, tension. In this way, breathe in and out thrice. Let us pray for the welfare of all beings. May the divine cosmic consciousness from which this whole universe has emerged, which sustains this whole universe and all living beings, and into which everything merges back, may that light of cosmic intelligence, peace, purity, knowledge, bliss, freedom, and all divine excellences, which forms the foundation and the core of our being, may that being be gracious to us. May it direct our mind towards itself. May it inspire all to seek the divine within. Send out your thoughts for the welfare of all beings throughout the universe. See your thoughts going out forever, touching and uplifting everyone. Send your prayers to your right. Visualize your thoughts radiating out from you, going out throughout the universe. Send them to your left, in front, behind, above, below, in all directions. With you as the center, let the divine pulsate in the core of your being with the prayer for the good of all beings throughout the universe. Now withdraw your mind from the external physical material world and direct it to the center of your heart, your being. Visualize your body, the physical body, to be strong and steady. Visualize that pervading this physical body is your mental body, made of thoughts and ideas, spiritual thoughts and ideas, luminous. Visualize that behind this subtle body is the causal body, the body of intelligence, finer and subtler than this causal body, the subtle body. In that ocean of consciousness, which is the foundation of our being, visualize a lotus, fully bloomed, full of freshness and fragrance. In the center of that lotus, visualize a flame, steady like a lamp kept in a windless place, radiating its effulgence in all directions, illumining the causal, the subtle, and the physical body with its divine radiance. You may replace that flame with any divine form of your choice. Visualize the light emanating out of that divine source is the light of knowledge that dispels the darkness of ignorance. Imagine that the light is the light of purity that fills you with holiness through and through. It's a light of supreme peace that fills you with absolute serenity and tranquility. It is the source of absolute bliss that fills us with inner joy and contentment. It is the source of inner strength that strengthens us spiritually, morally, emotionally, intellectually, and physically. That infinite ocean of consciousness is what connects us with all beings. We are waves out of that infinite ocean. Focus your whole mind on the divine source within you. You may replace that divine light with that chosen ideal. To keep your mind anchored on the divine within you, you may repeat the mantra that has been given by your spiritual teacher, or you may repeat the universal sound Om, or the Gayatri mantra, or if you wish to meditate on Sri Ramakrishna, you may repeat Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaaya Namaha. Be mindful of your own thought process. Keep a watch on the repetition of the mantra. If the mind wanders away anywhere, bring it back to the divine within you. Fill your whole mind with the divine presence, pulsating with that mantra, illuminating every cell of your body, every corner of your mind with its presence. Merge yourself into the divine light. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. And thus you should meditate, ensuring that when you complete your meditation, finish the meditation, you offer the result of that meditation to the divine that is within you. Because all thinking, all meditating, all actions of the body and the mind are only possible because of that consciousness that is within us. And without that, nothing happens. So the results really belong to that consciousness within. We can conceive him or her as any divine being, but that is the original source. And so we have been in the last few sessions discussing about the first two steps of the eight-limbed teachings of Maharishi Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras. The first two steps are Yama and Niyama. These are the moral and the ethical disciplines that we must follow throughout our everyday life. And it helps to prepare the mind for this hour of meditation and concentration. If we are not mindful of those things, you'll find that no matter how much you try, the foundations are not strong, so you can't build a strong, tall building on a sandy foundation or soil. We have to have rock-solid foundation, and that is established by practicing these disciplines of Yama and Niyama. In Yama, we talked about ahimsa, non-violence, etc. And in Niyama, the do's, we talked about Saucha, Santosha, Tapa, Swadhyaya, Ishwar, Pranidhana, 5. Saucha is purity, purity of thoughts, words, and deeds. Purity of the physical body, of the mental body, and ultimately of all the three bodies. Because the truth, the pure consciousness is always with us, in us, here and now. But we are not aware of it because that truth has become covered. Just like a mirror has been covered by a layer of dust and you do not see your image in it. Likewise, the mind, when it becomes polluted with too many worldly thoughts and concerns, the waves agitate the surface of the ocean and take away its power of reflection or transparency. We do not become fully aware of ourselves as that eternal, infinite consciousness. We have some glimpse of it. We are conscious beings. We have knowledge from within us. We have enjoyment or happiness from within us. But it is very much covered, but better than other life forms. A stone also has that consciousness, a plant has it, an animal has it. In a human being, that consciousness is more manifested. It is present equally in all of them, but the manifestation is more. That's the only difference. So, how do we purify our mind so that the inner light of beauty and purity shines in greater glory? That is the whole process or idea behind all the spiritual disciplines. So, purity of thought, word and deed, Saucha. Today we'll take up this idea of Santosha, contentment. Why that is such an important spiritual discipline. Contentment means being satisfied or happy with the very basic minimum requirements of the physical material world. At best, we required some basic food, clothing, shelter, accommodation, and various things that will sustain our physical existence. Giving more time and effort beyond our essential necessity takes up so much of our time and energy from the real purpose of our being born as humans. And the idea is, the purpose of life is to seek for freedom, to be free. Freedom means realizing our spiritual nature. Within us, we are made of two components. One is the Atman, or the self or the soul, which is ever free, of the nature of infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss. And then we have this personality, the being, and the becoming. This physical body, mental body, and the causal body, these are what cover the light of consciousness that is within us. Being embodied or being a Jivatma means being identified with these three bodies. And that sense of identity, that I was born, I am so and so, this is my gender, my age, and one day this will die. This is to do with the physical body. That is not our true identity. This is temporary. The mental identity is also temporary, but the spiritual identity is our eternal permanent nature. Somehow that has become covered by this physical body and the mental body and the causal body. Meditation is a process by which we disidentify with all these external, non-essential, non-real, impermanent identities, so to say, and anchor ourselves in our true eternal spiritual being. So, if we are too much engaged and hankering and running after this external material world all the time, it takes away so much of our time, so much of our energy, and maybe the whole life goes in this fruitless running around of things which we really always do not need, but we have all these wants. So, true contentment means being content with the very basic things that are necessary for the continuation of this body, knowing that this body is a vehicle, a boat by which we'll cross this raft of life from this impermanent world to the permanent one. Asato ma sadagamaya. From this darkness of spiritual ignorance to the light of spiritual knowledge. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. From this death that is pertaining to the body to the immortal nature of the Atman, which is already within us. Dithyarma amritam gamaya. So, we have to be little economical as to how we spend this wonderful asset asset that we have, which is life, time. What do we do with this? If we use most of it or too much of it in accumulating material things and not able to give that mind and time to our spiritual pursuit, then everything ends with a zero, because death comes and takes all material possessions away. But if we are wiser, understanding that all these material things are temporarily necessary, but they will not last forever, and the purpose is to attain and achieve or realize something permanent which will not be taken away from us even when death comes and takes this body away from us, that goal or that achievement would be far superior to anything that this material world can give us. So, when we say contentment with the very basic, simple food, simple clothing, simple shelter, and then the energy that is saved and conserved by disengaging from this fever of life, constantly running out for sense enjoyments and material pleasures and possessions that gives us a sense of security in this world. When we say that, we dedicate that to the higher pursuit of seeking spiritual enlightenment. So contentment with respect to the external world, discontentment with respect to the internal spiritual goal. Sri Ramakrishna explains this with the word Vyakulta. That means a devotee is not also content with his spiritual progress and says, I am happy. He says, I analyze my life, understand very clearly within me that there is this divine principle, this spiritual Atman. And if I can experience that, I become immortal here and now because that is my true nature. If I realize that Atman, I can become omniscient, all-knowing. If I realize my Atman nature, I become omnipresent. I find that I am present throughout all creation. I am not a limited being. I become free from all misery, from all ignorance, from death itself. That is my divine purpose of my repeatedly coming into this world in various births. So having understood that, he does a audit and says, well, that is the ideal, but I have not reached that yet. Actually, I am quite far away from that goal. And when he reflects in this way, he becomes unhappy with his current status. That is called divine discontent. Or Sri Ramakrishna uses the word Vyakulta. And he says, another day is gone, another life is going past, and the real purpose of my coming into this world has not been achieved. On the other hand, I am too busy with too many trivial things that are there, which really are not conducive to my spiritual goal. So in this way, this discrimination comes, this alertness comes, and the ideal of self-realization or freedom or enlightenment becomes brighter and brighter and brighter. As that becomes brighter, this attraction for the worldly things, sense enjoyments, will automatically pale away and become smaller and insignificant. You see, on a dark night, if you look into the sky, you see so many beautiful bright stars and you can see them. Then the moon comes and shines, and the moon becomes more attractive. The stars pale away into insignificance or less prominence. And when the sun rises, the stars totally disappear. Even the moon pales away into insignificance in the light of the luminous sun. Likewise, as the spiritual ideal becomes brighter and brighter and brighter, the pull and the enjoyments of the senses and the material world automatically begin to fade away into insignificance. We really do not have to work on the negative side of trying to run away from sense enjoyments or things that entangle us too much in this world. We bring in the positive light, and the darkness of ignorance automatically disappears. So constantly thinking of the real purpose of life, which is to attain freedom or mukti or enlightenment, and that enlightenment is not something that somebody will give to you. It is already our divine birthright. It is already present inside us. We are not experiencing it fully. We are experiencing it to some extent. Some knowledge is there, some consciousness is there, some happiness or joy is there from within, some degree of freedom is there, a short lifespan of existence is there. But the nature of the Atman is that it is infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, infinite purity, beauty, freedom. So we have to move away from this conditioned, embodied state of the body-mind consciousness and gravitate towards our spiritual being. So the more we are content with the physical things and less we are content with our spiritual status or achievement, that will redirect the mind from this external world into the internal world. A part of the mind is always alert to the ideal that the purpose of life is to realize the truth. It is also feeling some degree of progress as it disentangles itself from things that are holding us down. The natural tendency of the mind, the spiritual mind, is always to shoot up towards the spiritual, but it is being held down. Sri Ramakrishna gives an example. In the villages in India, they have these ponds in which they keep fish, and whenever they want to catch a fish, they take a fishing line, they take a flexible bamboo stick that can be made to bend, and they put the hook and the sinker and all that. They drive this rod into the ground and they bend it and keep it in that bent position until the fish bites. And the moment the fish bites, this bamboo pole will straighten itself because it becomes released from that hook anchor there. Likewise, this attraction for this world makes the mind bend down towards external things, pravritti. But if it is freed from these external attractions and attachments, it automatically tries to regain its vertical, straight, upright position. That means it begins to turn and point towards the internal intelligence or consciousness or our Atman nature. So what are the things that are holding us back? These are the things to which the mind gets attached to, with the sense, these are mine, or this is my identity. I and my sense with respect to this body and with respect to the things we so-called possess in this external world. This I and mine, ami, amar, is called spiritual ignorance or maya. In those who have a very strong sense of ego or physical identity, arrogant or egotistic, so to say, and have a very strong attachment to the things of this world, to the physical body, how it appears, how strong it is, how it is dressed, what people think about it, to the my sense, material things that belong to my house, the property, the money, name, fame, power, position. These are in greater darkness, spiritual darkness, so to say. And those who have very little attachment to the world, they're very happy and content with the very basic meaning. You might say there are some people who actively practice this, being minimalistic. So before they acquire anything, they buy anything, they ask themselves, do I really need this? And you'll find that most of the time we don't need them. They just are there around the house, we never use them. So many clothes in the wardrobe that you don't wear, maybe too many cars that you don't even drive, but they are there, they need to be taken care of, protected. They take away time and energy. So we try to reduce that burden, the baggage, make it traveling as light as possible. And the mind thus freed can now be given to the real purpose of life, which is to contemplate on the divine and to realize yourself that we are a divine being having a human experience. So contentment is a great virtue. Those who are content within themselves, they have a certain degree of tranquility and serenity about them. They don't get ruffled by too many changes outside the world. The changes in the outside world are happening, that is beyond our control. But because they're not attached to those things do not have the power over them, so to say, over the person. Because every time we stretch out the tentacle to possess something, we ultimately understand that we also get possessed by those things, because those things, those people, those situations now exercise a certain degree of control over us and force us to react. In other words, we lose our freedom to them and we become slaves of them. We might put it in the beautiful language of explaining it away in different ways, but the fact is that we become slaves of this external material world, of the senses, of people, of situations, and every time we reach out, we forfeit a certain degree of our freedom. So it doesn't make much sense that if we are seekers of freedom, spiritual freedom, but in our ignorance, we go in the opposite direction by surrendering in forfeiting that freedom to external things. So that sense of discrimination and understanding brings about a checking factor, a restraint within us that we should curtail that outgoing tendency of the mind to get entangled with things that really don't benefit us, to know about things that don't have any consequences or importance in our life, to be possessed by things and people who are really not going to be conducive to my spiritual growth. And with that discrimination comes a sense of vairagya, dispassion. I'm not interested in this because they are not good for me spiritually. And as the mind becomes freed from this, as the things that hold the mind down to this ground level, so to say, mind is like a hot air balloon. It's tied down to the ground with so many ropes, so to say. And as you do your tapasya or meditation or spiritual discipline, you're injecting your spiritual energy into it. The balloon develops a stronger sense of trying to lift off and take off to high elevations. But if we do not disentangle ourselves from things that hold us down, then what happens is all our sadhana, all our spiritual discipline does not culminate in that elevation of the mind that we seek. So we have to be dispassionate, disentangled from the world. Contentment means we have give our mind or be happy and satisfied with the bare necessities. Simple food, simple clothing, simple shelter. My sense of value of who am I, that is more important to me than what the world thinks about me regarding my dress, my positions, my name and fame. My inner knowledge of me is more important than knowledge of things around the world. My inner peace is more important to me. My inner joy is important to me than the sense enjoyments of the external world. In this way, when we are constantly mindful and alert to the spiritual ideal, to the spiritual goal, then you'll find that slowly the mind is weaned away. It's weaned away step by slowly from the external world, and it begins to discover a greater sense of tranquility and peace and joy. And that taste of that inner joy, inner contentment is what drives us deeper to seek the true peace, the supreme peace that is at the core of our spiritual being. Peace that surpasseth all understanding. Param Shantim. So this is the goal within, to realize the Atman, and meditation is a process by which we deliberately, systematically, consciously detach our mind from the external worlds, which is and things of the world, and direct that attention to this spiritual essence of our being. And realization is when this mind of the meditator becomes one with the object of meditation. When we try to focus our mind on the divine within us, with very few things pulling us outside because we are content with the very simple things and eager for that spiritual awakening or connection, then you'll find that the mind naturally gathers a strength from within, a deeper sense of conviction that it is in the right direction. It feels there's a proper purpose of life, and that you have discovered that particular purpose. You have zoomed onto the goal of life. You're making some effort, making some progress also, and that also gives a deep sense of contentment and joy that at least you're on the right track, the track to illumination. And then you press on the accelerator, so to say, how quickly you want to reach the goal, how desperate you are for that spiritual realization. Sri Ramakrishna would reflect at the end of the day, and he would say to his divine mother, "Oh mother, another day has gone and I have not realized the truth." Such was his desperation to and constant alertness to the spiritual ideal. That vyakulta, or spiritual yearning, so to say, for illumination and realization awakens in the mind that becomes a little bit more sattvic, disentangled from the external pursuits, freed of the tamas or darkness of inertia, freed from the agitations of the rajasic mind, which needs to be constantly agitated or stimulated by sense enjoyments or entanglement with the outside world, pacified from this lower animal nature and the human nature, this mind attains or acquires a tendency of a divine mind, Shuddha. So, Sri Krishna would say, Shuddha Mana, Shuddha Buddhi, Shuddha Atma Ek. The pure mind, the pure intellect, and the pure Atman are one and the same thing. Thus being the goal of meditation, in which when we meditate, we try to be mindful that the object of meditation is not some external entity, but our own higher self, the Paramatman. God is not some outsider, but He is our true spiritual nature. He is our higher self. We can conceptualize Him as a spiritual ocean of consciousness for those who are comfortable with an impersonal, nameless, formless existence. Others require some physical support, so we can visualize that same divine as the embodiment of all divine qualities, personified as a particular deity, our own chosen ideal, and taking the spiritual support or guidance from our spiritual preceptor, who discovers or decides who or what is that spiritual form or ideal, and he gives us the mantra also, the name, which is the counterpart of the form. It is important to understand and keep in mind that the name and the named are non-different. Nam, Nami, Abhed, Sri Krishna says. And so, we have to have that alertness that the deity that we are meditating and the mantra are non-different. It is also important to understand that we also are non-different from the chosen ideal. That is our own higher self. And the mantra is the connecting point. So as we meditate and repeat on the mantra, whether it is Om or whichever mantra that the Guru has given, make sure that you feel that energy of that mantra reverberating within you. Focus your whole being and pour your energy into that mantra. Feel it pulsating in every cell of your body, becoming luminous and shining through every corner of your mind, illuminating in the spiritual dimension of our being and dispelling the darkness of ignorance. As we dive deeper and deeper, you'll feel the power of this mantra and meditation taking shape in you, and that is the proof of the cake. We don't need somebody else to tell what it's like. If we practice sufficiently, we will feel the power awakening. Just like in a winter night, if there's a fire in the distance and you approach it, you'll begin to feel its warmth. Likewise, in this cold world, the fire of the Atman is ever burning within us. As we approach it, we will feel its light and its heat and be nourished. And then we will very quickly realize that we don't need anything from outside, because whatever we need is within us. That intense desire to realize the truth in its totality, here and now, in this life itself, is the goal of a spiritual life dedicated to that ultimate purpose. So meditate well, deeply, always being alert to this spiritual ideal. Practice these virtues of yama and niyama in your everyday life, and you'll find that your mind will be better prepared for the hour of meditation when, because you have been alert to the spiritual goal, kept your mind free, not got it too much entangled in worldly affairs, that mind is a better mind for your meditation, a good tool, a good friend, so to say. We will continue with these discussions in the Niyama. We talked about Saucha and Santosha. Next week we will talk about Tapa, austerity, why that is important and what are various types of austerities of the body, of the speech, of the mind, and what is the purpose and utility, and how that is an important discipline that takes us further in our journey, our spiritual journey. Until then, keep safe and sound. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.